An Iowa court has sentenced a teenage victim of sex trafficking to 5 years of probation and ordered her to pay $150,000 to her abuser's family. Piper Lewis ran away from an unstable home at the age of 15. She was repeatedly abused by multiple men and fatally stabbed one of them in 2020. She pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter last year. Her case is again underscoring a serious issue of justice. Hundreds of victims of sexual abuse and trafficking have faced similar legal consequences and even decades in prison for killing their abusers. Joining me now is Cyntoia Brown Long, herself a survivor of human trafficking. She was convicted of murdering one of her abusers when she was 16 and served 15 years of a life sentence before she was granted clemency in 2019. She's now a criminal justice reform advocate and author of Free Cyntoia: My Search for Redemption in the American Prison System. Cyntoia Brown Long, welcome to the NewsHour. Thank you for joining us. There are so many painful parallels between what you endured and what Piper Lewis has endured, the abuse, the legal process that followed. I just have to ask, when you first heard her story, what did you think?
It's just a story that has unfortunately become all too familiar. A child who has failed by agencies early on. She had an abusive home that she was running away from. She was on the streets. Someone took advantage of her, exploited her vulnerabilities, just her needing to survive. And whenever she woke up and decided that she wanted to fight back and she wanted to be free, she was subject to the justice system. So unfortunately, that's become the norm.
In this case, her charges were reduced from a first-degree murder charge to voluntary manslaughter. She had faced 20 years up to prison, and as we just said, got 5 years in a residential correctional facility. How do you see this? Is this justice in this case?
I would not call it a complete picture of justice. Obviously, it's a lot better than what many of us had to endure. I was sentenced to a life in prison. Thankfully, my sentence was commuted. However, she's still going to have to go to a facility. She is a victim, even though the prosecutors acknowledged that she was a victim in this situation. Not only is she going to have to serve time in a facility, but over the next 5 years, anything that she does can trigger her having to serve a 20-year sentence. So she's not truly free. And then there's the fact that she was ordered to pay $150,000 to the family of someone who victimized her. So I wouldn't call it justice exactly. However, it is a lot better than what it could have been.
You know, that's really saying a lot. And we should point out, too, that the cases, how cases are handled, really depends on which state you live in and where this is all unfolding. There was the Ohio case of Alexis Martin, who was convicted for killing her alleged trafficker back when she was 15. Her sentence was eventually commuted, but then a parole violation got her landed back in prison just this spring. In Wisconsin, there was the case of Crystal Kaiser, which we remember headlines about. She killed her abuser when she was just 17. She is still fighting in court years later to have evidence heard that her abuse is what led to her actions. What do all of these cases, Cyntoia, what do they tell us about how the laws look at children who are victims of sex trafficking?
It tells us we have a long way to go in educating people what it's actually like for someone who's a victim of trafficking, the life that they have to live, the things that they have to resort to just to survive. It tells me that even in states where we do have mechanisms in place for prosecutors, for judges to be lenient, to look at these individuals as young girls who reacted from a place of trauma and who are in need of services and not being incarcerated. Um, Sometimes the people who are involved in these cases don't necessarily see that we saw that in the case of Crystal Kaiser. There was an affirmative defense on the books. They had a law that said that she should be able to defend herself as saying that what happened to me was a direct cause of being exploited through trafficking. However, the judge decided that he was going to find some loophole and say that didn't apply to her. And on the flip side, in this case with Piper Lewis, we had individuals who saw that she was in need of treatment, but there wasn't really a law on the books that could enable her to bypass the criminal justice system altogether and just receive treatment as a victim. So it tells me that we need both of those to be working in tandem. And we've tried to figure it out. We've got a little progress going, especially since I was first incarcerated, but we have quite a bit to do.
What about the role of law enforcement in all of this? I know you, in your consulting capacity, have done some trainings with law enforcement groups. What do we need to understand about their role in these kinds of cases?
So law enforcement, you have to understand 9 times out of 10, these are going to be the first responders in these situations. So they're going to be responding to these situations. They're going to be the first person that comes into contact with these individuals. And so they have to have some level of discernment to see, well, this is a victim. This is not someone who is a criminal that I need to, take to jail, but maybe I need to call in a partner agency who actually works with survivors, or maybe even a survivor representative, to speak with this young girl and see what we can do for her and how we can help her. And that's really a big part of it.
Cyntoia, you've said before that there's this idea of there being no perfect victim in all of these cases. When you think about Piper Lewis, what does that mean? What should people understand?
I feel that, if we see news stories about, someone getting snatched off the street, kidnapped, it's like a given. Oh, well, let's support this person. Let's rally around this individual. No matter what happens, like, this person is a victim. But then you see other young girls who don't get that help early on, and the situation just festers, and finally they feel that if no one is going to come to their rescue, they have to do what they have to do to help themselves. All of a sudden they're seen as they're not a victim because, oh, well, they were promiscuous and they chose to be out on the street. Oh, because they ran away from home, we're not going to look at them as a victim. And a lot of times we see young Black girls, well, they should have known better. So it's just, there are certain individuals that we don't see as victims, even in awareness initiatives when it comes to trafficking. It always looks the same. It looks as, the victim is this person who's bound by ropes and locked in someone's dungeon. And it's not, the young girl who's living on the streets after having run away from an abusive home. And she's with the older boyfriend because that's the only way that she can survive at the time.
As you say, a lot of work to be done and a long way to go. That is Cyntoia Brown Long. She's the author of the book, Free Cyntoia, My Search for Redemption in the American Prison System. Cyntoia, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.